All right, so as we get into the summer months, everybody's going to be using the air conditioning a whole lot more. Well, sometimes the air conditioning doesn't work that well, and that's what we got going on here today. So what you see, this is my C10 70 model C10. I did LS swap on it a couple years ago. I did the vintage air kit, added air conditioning, because originally this truck didn't have air conditioning. It didn't have power brakes, didn't have power steering. So I added the air conditioning, the power steering to it a few years ago when I did the LS swap here. But what's going on is the AC is not, it's not getting cool. It's not blowing cold air out the vents. So we need to do some quick diagnosis. I feel like it's probably, it could have been undercharged to start with. Maybe it's got a leak and it's just gotten lower over the years. I don't know, we'll see what we can come up with here. So I want to walk you through some steps for checking your air conditioning, all right? So first thing is, got a little manifold gauge set here. Got off Amazon. You know, you can buy some stuff off Amazon or the cheaper stuff if you don't plan on using it all the time. For the same way it is for me, I'm not going to use this very much. So I bought, you know, I think it was like 40 or 50 bucks for this manifold gauge set. That lets us see the pressures in the system. Okay, so you've got your low pressure and your high pressure gauges. The blue, low, typically on the left; red, right; high pressure, typically on the right. I have seen them swapped, but that's typical. Then you got your wheels here, all right, your valves. What these do is these open the passages to the center or the service line here. Okay, so when these are closed, the refrigerant's only going from the line to the gauge when these are closed. So when you're monitoring pressures, that's it. That's all you need to do. Now, unless you're using the service line here in yellow, that's when you would open up the wheels there, or if you need to go from one side to the other. And this is the high side, same thing here. So when we're monitoring pressures, we're going to keep these closed. That way it just goes from the gauge to the line. All right. Then on the other end, we've got your fittings, your quick disconnects that hook up to the vehicle. All right. Now these are going to be refrigerant specific and also high and low side specific. So in other words, this is for 134A. This is a 134A setup. So this will not connect to R12 or 1234YF. All right. This being the low blue one. The fittings. Now the fittings, I made these hoses and I put the fittings in the most awkward position, I guess you would say, down here. Connect there for the low side, and the high side is right there. So right before it goes into the compressor there. But run those lines. You've got from the evaporator, it runs to the compressor, from the compressor out here to the condenser in front of the radiator. All right, and then obviously from the condenser it leaves that hard line and then it goes back to the evaporator there. So what we're going to do here is first thing we're going to do is a performance test. Okay, a performance test for your AC system. That's what anybody can do to see. In other words, we're just trying to see how cool it's going to get. All right, how cool is it going to get? How cool is the AC? All right. Right now, I'll have to look at my thermometer, see what the temperature is, but we should see a pretty good change. Well, we'll just look at your thermometer here. So, but you can buy these little thermometers as well. The main thing about this is you got to, I see a lot of people, you gotta take it out of the protector there. All right, but you got your thermometer. So this one's reading ambient temperature right now at about 70 degrees. Yep, 70 degrees. So what we'll do is we'll take this, slide it in there like that, connect it, and then open up the truck here. We're gonna go inside and see, here's my vents. The center vent, the one closest you can get to the evaporator. We're gonna stick this down in here. My vents, the hoses come off to the side. All right. And then we're going to start it up. We're going to start it up, turn the AC on full blast, close the doors, rev it up, and then also we've got a box fan here. They're going to get some airflow across the condenser. All right. And what that's going to do is see how cool it is. So I'm gonna hook these hoses up here to the vehicle, my low side, my high side, hook them up, and then fire it up and see what kind of temperature change. It's ambient, 70 degrees, so we should see a good drop if it's working correctly. If it's not, well, we'll see what the difference is there, but we can go from there on our diagnosis. All right. Okay, so our hoses are hooked up, but now we gotta open up the valve. Okay, and you don't want to open these valves all the way. You just open it enough to where it reads on the gauge. Okay, so I'll let you watch the gauges here until they open up. All right, that's all I got to move it. You got pressure now on the low side. Okay, and then I'm gonna hook up turn on the valve for the high side as well. So right now the truck's not running, compressor's not running, so there is no high and low side. It's equalized, it's normalized between both sections. So you see right now, vehicle not running, we're at 55 on the low side and about 55 on the high side. Okay, well that number there, that number should be equal to about ambient air temperature. Well, ambient, we just looked at the thermometer at 70 degrees, so right off the bat we know that it's potentially low on refrigerant or undercharged. All right, but we're going to get back to the performance test. I'm going to fire it up and we're going to get some airflow across the radiator here and the condenser and see how cool it gets inside the vehicle. All right. Close the windows, close the door, got it on full blast, and we're gonna see how cool it gets. All right. Pressure's here. You can see on our low side, we're almost zero. High side is barely above 75. Definitely low on refrigerant. Air's coming out the vents. Air's coming out the vents, max flow. Man, it's not doing anything to our thermometer there. So we're not getting any temperature change, okay? So we got low ambient pressures on our gauges, and we started it up. Low side went really low, high side was pretty low. You know, to know how much refrigerant we've got in the system, you really need to pull it all out, suck it all out, weigh it, and compare it to your system's capacity. But when you get to these builds like this conversion here, a lot of times, you know, the capacity for the refrigerant isn't exact. All right, because you've got custom lines, you've routed it, maybe you've mounted the condenser a little bit differently or whatnot. Maybe it's a different size compressor. But either way, and you get away from a stock vehicle, you know, like a stock vehicle where there's been no modifications from the factory, they've got a specific amount of refrigerant, okay? But for these custom ones, you kind of have to tailor it one way or the other for your application. All right, so what we're going to do is I don't have a recovery machine here, so I'm not going to pull it all out and weigh it. We know that it's low based upon our performance test, based upon the ambient pressures and ambient temperatures. So we're going to do, I just went down to AutoZone, grabbed some 134A, and we're just going to add a little bit to it at a time to try to bring up that performance of the AC system. Unfortunately, we're not going to know exactly how much without that recovery machine and be able to weigh it. But this is our, I'm going the cheap route here. This bottle here, you know, it's like 12 bucks at AutoZone. And what we're going to do is going to take our yellow service line. We're going to hook it up here to our tap, and then as we turn that valve on, all right, what's going to happen is we're going to open up the low side valve here, because this is the suction side. All right, so it's going to be pulling this side. We're going to keep this one closed, and we're going to open up this one, and we're going to insert some refrigerant into our system there. Now, in this bottle or in this can, we've got gas or vapor at the top and then liquid at the bottom. We're going to try to keep at a gaseous or vapor state, because the entry point for the low side is right before the compressor. We don't want any liquid refrigerant going into the compressor. That can actually damage the compressor. So we're going to try to introduce it as a vapor to charge the system there. So this is only, you know, this is only a pound or 12 ounces, okay? And only 12 ounces of refrigerant in this can. So add a little bit and try to get it up to in our range, all right? Compressor shuts off. See, when the center part of the compressor is not spinning, there it goes, click back on. That's why pressure dropped there. I'm going to put a little bit more in. Shut that off. So now we'll shut it off. We'll let the pressures equalize between the high and low side and see if it's the same as ambient. That's the best way we can tell if it's fully charged, undercharged, overcharged at this point without a recovery machine. All right. All right, so to wrap up our AC project here, okay, we added some refrigerant to it. All right, we hooked our gauges up, our pressures looked good. The thermometer inside the truck we got down in the 40s. With ambient, it's now about 76 degrees out here is what I checked. Then shut it off. We checked our rest pressure on our gauges. I've already got them disconnected now, but we checked our rest pressure and it matched our ambient temperature. So I'm confident to say that this is accurately charged. The numbers look good. The only way we could correctly tell would be to take all the refrigerant out to weigh it, compare it to our specs. But based upon our numbers on our gauges, the numbers, you know, for the pressures in the system, when it's running, you have a high side, you have a low side, but when it's off, they're equalized. Compressor's not running, and its system's equalized. That's why it's close to ambient temperature. The thermometer in the dash, you know, like I said, got down in the 40s with it on max cackle there. Temperature all the way cold, fan all the way up, doors closed. We got airflow across the condenser so it can transfer that heat. So I would say success on topping off the refrigerant. Now the only other question is, you know, why was the refrigerant low, or why were we down on refrigerant? like I said, maybe it wasn't charged correctly in the first place. Maybe there's a leak somewhere. You know, as a technician out in the field, if you're working on somebody else's, you would want to find the leak before you send it out back out there, if it did have a leak exactly. But I'm gonna have this in and out of the garage, so I'll have to be able to keep an eye on it if it's getting warmer as far as the AC in the cab. So if it does it again in a significantly quick amount of time, hey, we'll go to the next step, which would be to leak check it, try to find where the leak could be. Is it a fitting? Is it no telling what it could be. But anyway, so far, job well done. Got it topped off on some refrigerant, ready for some cruises here for the hot summer months coming up. Thank you.